The night she almost walked past him, the rain was falling hard enough to blur the city into streaks of light and shadow, and he was already bracing himself for the familiar ache of being invisible. People hurried by with their coats pulled tight, eyes fixed forward, pretending not to notice the man sitting on the cold concrete outside the grocery store. He wasn't asking for money. He never did. He was just trying to stay dry, one arm wrapped around a backpack that held everything he owned, the other shielding a small, shivering dog pressed against his chest. He told himself he didn't care anymore. That expecting kindness was just another way to get hurt. Her shoes slowed. He noticed because most people didn't slow at all. She hesitated, then turned back, her face softening when she saw the dog's trembling body. Without saying a word, she shrugged off her coat and draped it gently over the man and the animal. The warmth shocked him so much he forgot to speak. "Make sure he stays dry," she said quietly, nodding at the dog. Her voice carried the kind of calm that felt earned, not naive. Then she stood, pulled her hood up, and disappeared into the rain before he could thank her. For the rest of the night, that moment replayed in his mind. Not because of the coat, but because of the way she'd looked at him, not with pity, not with fear, but like he mattered. Her name was Claire, and she had spent the last 10 years convincing herself she was strong enough to handle anything alone. She worked long shifts at a downtown hospital, saving lives during the day and ignoring her own at night. She had learned how to stay composed in chaos, how to deliver bad news with steady hands, how to smile when her heart felt hollow. What she hadn't learned was how to stop carrying guilt for a choice she'd made years earlier, a choice that had fractured her family and left her believing she didn't deserve much in return. She told herself the coat was no big deal. She had another one at home. But all the way to her apartment, she kept seeing the man's eyes, startled, grateful, wounded in a way that felt familiar. The man's name was Daniel. Once, he had been a husband, a father, a construction foreman who woke up early and came home tired but proud. Then a scaffolding collapse shattered his leg and his sense of security in the same instant. The pain pills turned into a habit, the habit turned into an addiction, and the addiction took everything else with it. His wife left to protect their daughter. Daniel didn't blame her. Some days, he didn't blame himself either. Other days, that was all he did. The dog, a scruffy mutt he'd named Lucky, had found him long after the world had stopped feeling lucky at all. Lucky followed him one night and never left. Taking care of the dog gave Daniel a reason to wake up, a reason to stay sober, a reason to believe he still had something to offer. A week after the rain, Daniel ended up in the hospital. An infection in his leg flared suddenly, the old injury aggravated by cold and exhaustion. He hated hospitals. The smell, the beeping machines, the looks from security when they checked his wristband too carefully. He was half expecting to be treated like a problem instead of a patient. Claire was on her third double shift when she saw him. She recognized the dog first. Lucky was curled up at the foot of the gurney, watched closely by a nurse who looked unsure what to do. Then Claire's eyes met Daniel's, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Something passed between them, recognition, maybe, or relief. "You," Daniel said finally, his voice rough. "The coat." She smiled, small and tired. "You kept it dry." They talked in fragments at first. Short sentences between vitals and medications. Claire learned that Daniel hadn't had a steady meal in days. Daniel learned that Claire worked too much and slept too little. When her shift ended, she stayed anyway, sitting beside his bed while Lucky snored softly. No one had sat with Daniel like that in years. Over the next few days, Claire found herself checking on him even when she wasn't assigned to his care. She brought extra food for Lucky, sneaking it in with a conspiratorial grin. Daniel told her about his daughter, how he still remembered the sound of her laugh when she was small, how he hoped she was happy even if she never thought of him again. Claire listened, really listened, and in return she shared pieces of herself she usually kept buried. She talked about her mother, who hadn't spoken to her since Claire chose nursing school over the family business. About the way success could feel lonely when it came at the cost of connection. When Daniel was discharged, he expected to be back on the street by nightfall. Instead, Claire hesitated in the hallway, keys clenched in her hand. "I have a couch," she said. "And a landlord who pretends not to notice dogs. Just for a few days. Until you're stronger." Daniel shook his head immediately. Pride flared, old and stubborn. "I can't." "You can," she interrupted gently. "Let someone help. Just this once." Those few days turned into weeks. Daniel healed, slowly, painfully, but with determination. Claire watched him fight for himself in a way she'd almost forgotten people could. He helped around the apartment, cooked simple meals, took Lucky on long walks. He started attending recovery meetings again, sitting in the back at first, then sharing his story with trembling honesty. One evening, a letter arrived in the mail addressed to Claire. The return address made her hand shake. She almost threw it away. Daniel noticed. "You don't have to open it," he said. She did anyway. It was from her mother. Short, awkward, but real. An apology. An admission of regret. An invitation to talk. Claire cried in Daniel's arms, the kind of crying that leaves you lighter afterward. In that moment, she understood something she'd been missing for years. Kindness had a way of rippling outward, touching places you never expected. Just when things began to feel steady, the unexpected came crashing in. One afternoon, Daniel saw a familiar face across the park, a teenager with his eyes and his smile. His daughter. She was older than he remembered, taller, more serious. Fear rooted him to the spot. Claire watched him from a distance, heart pounding, as he made a choice. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He walked forward, hands open, and said her name. The conversation was messy and raw and full of long pauses. There were tears, and anger, and questions Daniel didn't know how to answer. But there was also something else, a willingness to try. His daughter didn't forgive him that day. She didn't promise anything. But she listened. And when she left, she hugged him, briefly, awkwardly, but real. That night, Daniel broke down, overwhelmed by hope and terror in equal measure. Claire held him, understanding that love wasn't about fixing someone. It was about standing beside them while they fixed themselves. Months passed. Daniel found steady work at a small repair shop owned by a man who believed in second chances. Claire reduced her hours, learning how to rest without guilt. They built a life that wasn't perfect but was honest, stitched together by patience and care. On a clear spring morning, they returned to the spot outside the grocery store where they'd first met. Daniel placed a small sign near the entrance, offering free coffee and conversation. Not charity. Connection. Claire stood beside him, watching strangers slow down, smile, sit. She realized then that humanity wasn't found in grand gestures or heroic moments. It lived in small choices, the decision to stop, to notice, to share warmth in the rain. And as Daniel laughed with Lucky at his feet and Claire's hand in his, both of them knew the same simple truth: kindness, once given, never truly disappears. It comes back in ways you can't predict, carrying with it the power to change lives, including your own.